I'm learning and evolving on social media. Just be true to like your mission and yourself. And people make mistakes throughout their career, but it's not broadcasted to 8 million people. Here, I just don't see a point on being on top by yourself.
Welcome back to the Cypress Room, where we dive deep on influencing with integrity. This is a podcast for creators, and I'm Christina Mascari.
And I'm Meggie Honeycutt, and welcome back. Today, we have a very special guest in the Cypress Room, somebody that I personally follow, one of my favorite creators.
We might be fangirling just
Yes,
a little bit.
Just a little bit. So we want to welcome to the Cypress Room, Katie Van Slyke.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. I know you are so busy, and we just feel so honored that you took the time out of your busy schedule to come and sit down with us for a little bit so we can kind of pick your brain about your business and the behind the scenes of all your platforms. Because if you aren't a fan of Katie, like me, you have to know that she is wildly successful on not just one platform, but
all four.
All
four
she has millions of followers. So we want to know all the things today and hopefully inspire you guys out there in your own journey of owning a small business or creating content, so we can get some golden nuggets to apply to our own business.
And I was like binging yesterday, and it was so fun. And I want to start with you telling the story of how like an Instagram picture just changed the trajectory of your life.
Right. Well, that was just, it feels like a million years ago, and it also feels like yesterday. It was in 2017, and I literally, what's funny is I was kind of at like a low point because of like things going on in my life at the moment. So like I felt kind of low, like there wasn't a whole lot of good stuff going on. And I literally just posted a picture, nothing special, just standing on a gravel road. And I didn't have a following at that point. I had 4,000 followers, but it was all just horse people from horse shows and whatnot. And I guess without me knowing, a bunch of other accounts posted it. Like, this is so cringy, but they were like cute country girls and like, like Southern baddies and things like that.
Gosh.
And it was like, I didn't know these existed.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't, honestly, and people don't believe me when I say this, I didn't know influencing was a thing. I didn't.
Okay.
I mean, this was
2017.
This was 2017. This wasn't.
It was a thing, but it was not a thing.
I didn't
the way
know.
it is today.
My brain couldn't compute how someone could like make money off of social media. And so from, whenever I posted it to the next week, I had like 6,500 followers, and I felt like that was the hugest jump ever. And then,
Well, and we have to pause because that is a big deal. In 2017, having 65,000 followers in a matter 100.
Yeah.
And like a matter of weeks, like that can happen now with reels in a day, but off of one picture being shared, like that's huge.
And then it kind of kept growing because at that point I wasn't posting on Instagram that much, but I was like, okay, I'll post some more pictures. And at that point it was the summer, and I was like, okay, I'll just post some things with my horses, and we're going to CMA Fest and yada, yada, yada. And by September, that was in April, by September I had 50,000. And then by, I think that November or December, I had 100,000. And then by the next April at that year mark, I had 250,000. And so it just kind of spiraled. And the one thing that I think really blew it up was, my following started in April. So we had all the summer. Well, then September rolls around and I start shooting my bow and getting ready for archery season. And so it brought in a lot more like hunting content, and that's really what kicked it off. And
now, were you showing up in stories like every day, or were you just mostly posting pictures?
I don't even think stories was a thing.
Were they not?
I don't think stories existed.
I need to get my analog of Instagram
video
out.
You could
was
post
a
a
thing.
15-second video.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Yeah.
Back then. So I didn't post videos. That was not a thing that I did. I take it back. I would post some short singing videos every now and then, but it wasn't.
Oh, we're going to talk about that later because I saw a singing video of you yesterday, and I'm like, girl, you need to record an album. We're going to talk about that later.
And so, yeah, it was just weird. It was so crazy. And like I'm also combating the fact that at that point, doing this wasn't a thing for most people. It wasn't well known. It still isn't. I mean, you could still talk to an old person and they're gonna be like, what are you doing with that phone? You know?
That's sweet.
And
that cute.
And so, like, my parents are like, why are you just taking pictures of yourself all the time? They're so judgy.
They
were so judgy.
So worried about you.
They were so judgy. And I was making, at the time, we were like, he's my new boyfriend, my husband. And I was making him take pictures of me all the time. And it was also a little bit weird because, like, in high school, I was not popular. I was not the cool kid. I was not the type of person that got a lot of attention for being pretty or being cool at all. And so then, like, Old Row posting me and Barstool posting me and all this stuff, I was like, whoa, what is this? I don't know what this is. And so, you know, I will say at the very beginning, because it was just photos, I was 20 years old. It was purely a male following. And it was very much, you know, I always had my boyfriend on there. Like, they always knew I had a boyfriend, but it was very much like, how cute can I look in this camo while I'm going hunting kind of deal at first. And then there wasn't really like a thought behind it or like a mission behind it. It was just, oh, I'm growing. Let's keep it growing, you know? And so that's kind of how that first year was.
Well, so was it within that first year that you figured out, hey, I could maybe make some money from this? When was the point
I made $50 on... Someone sent me, it was in September when I had 50,000 followers. I made $50 on a post with, I think it was something for hunting. It was like a mineral block, something like that. And then I was like, oh my gosh. And I think in that first, like that last quarter, I made like $2,000 off of little $100 here, $150 here, $50 here, little posts for hunting companies. Mostly, or t-shirt companies, lots of t-shirt companies. And I was kind of at that point just saying, oh, if you want to send me free stuff, sure, send it and I'll post about it. You know, I didn't know anything. And then the next year I was still working in an office, but I had gone to this convention called ATA, which is the Archery Trade Association, because I had done this whole hunting season on social media for the first time. And was documenting, you know, deer hunting and turkey hunting and things like that. And I was new into archery, and so I was documenting that. And so when I went to ATA, I met up with a few brands. And then that whole next year was kind of the beginning of working with brands consistently.
Was there somebody that came in and said, hey, you can charge more than this? Was there anybody who mentored you to be like, hey, we got to get you up from $50 a post? Like, that's great that you did that, but let's get you up.
And, you know, I still did stuff like that was small. If they were, you know, if they gave me a pair of boots or, you know, something like that I felt like it was a fair trade. But yeah, I had a couple of friends that I met through a camo company we were working with, and they were very, very good guidance. They were like, hey, this is kind of how you can go, which I look back on that and I'm like, things have changed so much. But they're like, you can take how many likes you normally get and like, you know, whatever. And so, I had a friend named Sydney and I had a friend named Hannah, and we were all kind of new to it, and we were all kind of in the same space and making the same type of content. So we'd be like, okay, what are you charging for that?
Yeah.
Okay, you know, and kind of going off of that. So it was helpful.
I love that, because we talk about that a ton on here, about how important community is when you're doing social media, because when you're isolated and you're not talking to other people that seem like they should be your competition, then you don't learn things like that.
Right.
And there is like bargaining power in all of you coming together and be like, well, I got this for this, so why don't you ask for $1,000 more or whatever? And some people are like, oh no, you shouldn't talk to your competition, but we've always just seen really beneficial things come from that.
I've never in my life felt, I don't know, especially with the social media, I've never felt like I have to gatekeep anything, because it's like, I can do me and you can still do you. I've just never felt like the whole being on top by yourself thing. I don't see the point in it. But back then, yeah, it was definitely different. And I think brands didn't even know what to do, because I can remember.
They don't know what to do.
No, they don't. They don't. But I can remember there would be, I feel like once a quarter, I'd have a brand reach out for like a one-off post about something. And I was always very picky with like who I said yes to, but they'd be like $2,500 for one post, but then everybody else is in like the 100 to 200. So it's like I'd have this one big brand, like, you know, once a quarter that would just be like, oh yeah, we'll just start you off at this. And I'm like, what the heck? And then I can't even get this company I really like to pay me more than $100 for all this stuff, you know.
Oh my gosh, it's so refreshing to hear that happens in a different niche.
Yeah.
Than I'm in.
Yeah. Well, so tell us a little bit about, you started on Instagram, but now you're on all four. Like, what was the evolution of deciding, like, hey, I'm on Instagram, but maybe I should try YouTube or Facebook, TikTok?
So it was just Instagram for a long time. And I would say there's definitely been ups and downs the entirety of, I mean, what has been like 7 years. So I would say it was kind of up until I hit about 300,000. And that was 2 years in. And then I was pretty like stagnant for a year or so. And then I had a viral video on Facebook. I didn't even have a Facebook following at the time. I was just kind of posting whatever I did from Instagram to Facebook. And I posted a video because you could post longer videos on Facebook than you could on Instagram. And it was of a mare giving birth to a foal. And it got 180 something million views.
Oh, I bet.
Wow.
Yeah.
Made $0.
So heartbreaking.
Was not monetized. Like literally did not have enough following on there to be monetized.
Yeah.
And so made $0, but it did give me 500,000 followers in like the span of 2 days. So that kicked off Facebook, and I wasn't monetized on there for a long time just because I didn't know, because I would just have been freelancing it this whole time. Like barely had
Facebook
help.
doesn't make it easy to know either.
No.
YouTube is very transparent about that, but Facebook, it's like you have to dig in a million places to figure out what you need to do.
And I was not eligible for a long time due to the hunting stuff. And so I just kind of put it out of my head for a while.
That's interesting.
And then I just kind of went along, even though I had a bigger following, I kind of went along with just posting from Instagram to Facebook, kind of the same deal. Since I couldn't get monetized, I would just use it for brand deals and be like, look, I have this here and this here. And then I didn't start TikTok until, I don't know, 2020, at the end of 2020. And I was very anti-TikTok at first. I was like, I'm not singing to a camera, lip syncing. I'm not doing it. Like and I still haven't. But, you know, I was very anti-TikTok. And then I downloaded it purely to edit a video to post on Instagram, because it was just way easier to edit and you could put music to it and stuff. And then I just left the video up, and that one got like 500,000 views. And so then I got like,
maybe I need to be on TikTok.
And then I got like 30,000 followers immediately on there. And then I was like, oh, okay. And so that was at the end. It was like November of 2020. And I had foals coming in 2021. And when I did a roundup of all the horses that I owned, which at that point was only 8, that's crazy. It's a lot more now. I was like, here are the horses I have, and here's the 3 that are pregnant, and this is what's happening. And that got a lot of people to follow. And so by foaling season, I had like over 200,000 on there. And so, you know, it was like collectively 1 million at that point. And it just kind of kept snowballing. YouTube is the newest. YouTube, we've only been doing it a year and a half.
Oh my gosh, and you're killing it.
Wow, yeah.
So or maybe a little, almost 2 years now.
Okay.
Actually, now that I think about it. This year's gone by so fast.
Yeah.
We started in January of last year, of 2020.
Wow, and you already have 92 million views on there.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
And I think that is combined with shorts too, because I did have a few shorts that went viral. One of them was like my pig squealing. I don't know. There's no rhyme or reason on there to me. So yeah, it's just kind of has kept snowballing, and then the Facebook has just kept snowballing along with TikTok. Instagram kind of went to the back burner because it's so much harder to monetize on there. So it just wasn't worth my time as much. But brands still want Instagram.
They do.
Even though you can't link in the comments, and even though you can't, like, even though it's the hardest thing to work, they still want it. So
do you find when you get deals with Instagram that there's licensing attached to it, and they want to be able to boost it with paid media?
Yeah.
Okay. Because like I said, there's no
Yeah.
If they don't, they're really not getting anything out of it.
But I just refuse to do something that's just for Instagram. I'm like,
Okay.
if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it. So it has to go at least on both Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
Because generally I'll have some sort of link that I get a commission, which it's super hard to get commission on Instagram because who's gonna go to the link in your bio and then click this and then click that? Like, no one's gonna do it.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm like, you can boost on Instagram, but I always require the boost link to be my link.
So did you consciously transition from hunting more to like taking care of your animals because of like the Facebook restriction, or did you just have a bigger love for the more farm content? And
so I was still very much hunting content on Instagram and Facebook when that first foaling season happened and a lot of people started watching for the babies.
Okay.
And then I started posting the videos onto Facebook, and even though they weren't monetized, like the following kept growing. And then I found out the reason why I wasn't monetized on Facebook, and so I kept a lot of the hunting content more to Instagram. And it just turned into the hunting industry is you can meet some really awesome people, but it's like there's a limit. Like there's just a really kind of low ceiling. And so if I was going to grow our farm and grow our dreams, I just kind of had to step back. And also I was kind of getting to the point where working with the industry was making me not like it as much. I'm like, I love hunting and I love the outdoors, and like hateful people were just kind of ruining it. And I was like, well, I'm not making money off of this anyway. I'm just going to stop. And so I have very limited companies that I work with that are in the hunting space anymore, just because like I got to where I was burnt out on doing it, because I'm like, okay, well, that wasn't the purpose of this in the first place. It kind of evolved to hunting being a part of my job. And then it was a constant fight with companies and a constant fight with the internet. And it turned into, I was like, okay, I'll share a little bit, but I'm not going to make this the center of my page anymore. And people seem to like the animals. And I'd kind of had in my head, like when I initially started social media, I initially had in my head, like, no one cares about the horses, because in high school and college, people were like, can you stop talking about your horses? No one cares. And so like,
there's a lot of people out there that care. They just didn't have it in your high school.
Right.
There's one of them sitting right here.
Yeah. So being like softly bullied about that my entire life, I just kind of took a break on sharing it, even though it was still always happening in the background. I was still always showing horses and always riding and things like that. I just didn't make it, as put out there until 21. So,
well, I'm curious, at what point did you decide I need help and start to scale your business? I should have
decided earlier.
Tell us how you scaled your business and when you decided to bring on help and what that looked like for you.
So I got my manager who manages it. Like, she manages my business relationships. She's evolved to where she just manages my life a lot of the time. But her name's Abra. She's amazing. And I met her through Groove Life, I think 5 years ago. And then she was working with Groove Life at the time. And then she left Groove Life, and we discussed her possibly just helping me. She had a couple other clients. And so that just kind of evolved. So that was August of, I can't remember if it was 22 or 23. I think it was 22 that we decided that she was going to help me out a lot. And we just, it's always learning because things change constantly. And so having a second mind, thinking of ways to do, like we started an email list. I would have never had the bandwidth to do that without her. We started my website. Again, her husband did it for me. I would have never been able to do it. And so that helped a lot. And then Aubrey was like, okay, I can't manage your life because you're too chaotic for me. You need help.
So now you need an assistant.
We need an assistant. And I'm like, yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
And I kind of like fought her on it a little bit. I'm like, no, I just like doing stuff for myself, And then I was like, okay, well, I need your help finding somebody, because if I put a thing out on Facebook,
you're going to get stalkers.
I can't do that.
Yeah.
Right. And so she put a thing out as, what did she say? It was
Her assistant sitting over here. We're trying to get her on camera.
Her. Yeah, so she put out an ad for herself for a personal assistant.
Oh, sneaky. And I like it.
And then we did an interview and she was like, just kidding, it's not for me, it's for my client.
Oh my gosh, that is a hot tip right there for people.
And then that made it a lot easier to weed out because we interviewed a few people and I needed somebody that was like close in my age, knew how to use a phone, you can't have a personal assistant that you're with all the time. I understand if you have a personal assistant that you're just talking to on the phone and you're like, hey, can you do this for me? Like, I needed someone with me constantly, helping me film, helping me schedule things, helping me keep track of things. And I'm like, I can't do that with someone that I can't be buddies with.
Well, and they must love animals, right? Like, because she helps you a ton with.
She gave so many enemas to baby horses.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, she does everything.
Like, there was one time this year that she got snowed in at our house for 4 days. Like, I mean, obviously there's got to be some like boundaries. I don't call her on the weekends. I don't call her when she goes home. But like, there's some points where we're like, hey, it's foaling season. You're going to have to take it on the chin a little bit for the next 3 months. And you might be here for days on end.
But I love how the people that you have like working with you, like you're letting your audience into who they are. You're not putting on this facade of, hey, I'm doing this all by myself. And I know we've seen Abby on like your Q&As, which I love. I binged like 3 of those yesterday. That's like some of my favorite content to watch. So I love how you're like, not only are these people like support system and helping build this brand, but they're part of my life and I love them and we get to see their personality too.
Okay, so tell us too about, we're talking off camera about Matt and Nate and the role that they play in your business.
They're the YouTube producers and photographers and videographers and editors, and they do all the YouTube side, and then a lot of the photos on the merch are from them. And I mean, they have to travel with us too. I mean, it's kind of the same deal where they're not just coming and filming on a set. Sometimes we're going out of state for a few days. Sometimes during foaling season, they're staying at my house or they're staying in our Airbnb and they're there all night. And they, so it's the kind of same deal. They have to be buddies to make
And
that
how
work.
did you find them?
I met Matt first at a hunting camp. We were both in Illinois at the same time, and he filmed me hunting for a few days for the outfitter that I was at because they were wanting some content for their page. And then we just sat at a tree stand together for like 15 hours a day for 3 days. And then how do you not
make friends?
Make friends or figure out you don't like each other in that time. And he gets along with my husband super well. And so we kind of had this idea. That was in November. And I was like, let's revisit talking about a YouTube channel in a month or two and kind of come up with a plan. And so in January, we started filming and we didn't really know where it was going to go. We were just kind of like, okay, let's start doing, about the foaling and about breeding and mainly horse focus at the very beginning because that's just what was going on. And then Nate came on because Matt was like, this is too much. And so he got Nate to come on, and now they're partners.
Because you're doing 3 videos a week. Are you still doing?
We're doing 3 videos a week, and then
Wow.
And then I do 8 videos a day on 7 days a week on
Holy smokes.
all the other platforms.
Tell us, like, practically, how do you plan all that out? Because you are working on a farm with live animals.
Who's doing it?
There is no planning.
There is no planning.
I mean, so we have a big board in my kitchen. That's new. That's her because I am chaotic and it's terrible for business. And so that was something she helps me with so much because I have no organization. It's just all in my brain and it makes sense to me. And so, if we have the vet coming, if we have the chiropractor coming, if we have something specific happening, then we'll plan for it. But a lot of the content is just what's happening that day. And usually there's something happening that day, like today, right after this, I'm going to the vet and picking up a horse and bringing it back and we're doing a photo shoot and like all this stuff at home. So, like we just weaned the animals or we weaned the baby goats and we just like, there's so many different things that are always happening. And because there's so many different types of animals and so many of them. There's not really a day that nothing happens.
Yeah. So your whole team, the two Matt, tell me their names again. Matt and Nate. They're doing the editing, the thumbnails, the posting, the description box, everything. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's so smart. Kudos to you to do
they
that.
post? Who posts for you 8 times a day on TikTok? You're just live?
That's me.
Okay. And then do you just
and on Facebook too? I do all the Facebook posting, and I do. So one of my best friends just started helping me post on Instagram because it was kind of getting left in the dust, and I just didn't have the mental capacity for another. So I mean, I was literally just not posting there, maybe every couple weeks, and so she's not posting all 8 videos, but she's taking the videos I've already made and kind of shrinking them down into 1.5-minute format and then posting like the important ones.
So would you say that TikTok's your favorite now, the one that you didn't want to do?
It's my favorite for posting, but Facebook is my favorite app.
Wow. Okay,
total.
Cool.
There's just so many different, like on Facebook, you can post your reels. You can post very much like TikTok, but you can add in links, very much more monetizable, easier, in my opinion, to use, post photos and videos, especially when you're monetized on like everything they have to offer. It kind of becomes your favorite because it's going to be your bread and butter. It's going to be where everything comes from.
I have a good friend who does furniture like me, and she figured out Facebook, and it changed her life.
Facebook
changed her life.
100%.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's so overlooked.
And brands don't give a
but it's hard to get monetized, and that's what I found out with
it is
helping my best friend Rebecca and helping people that purchase animals from me or that I know that have animals. I'll be like, hey, like I'll tell people to go follow your page since they want to keep following this animal that you got from me, and it is difficult to get monetized, and so it takes a long time. Or like my friend Becca isn't even monetized on there yet. And so TikTok is another version for that so that they can go ahead and monetize pretty quickly.
Yeah.
TikTok for me, I don't even leave the monetize on because I don't even turn it on because they suppress your views, make it more difficult. And then for me, I don't really know what's happened, but in the last year or so, because there was a few months where it did real good. And I was like, okay, TikTok's kicking up. And then I don't know if it's because of the volume that I post. I don't really know what the reason is, but for the first 2 days, I get a very accurate amount of money per video. And then after that, it goes down significantly to where by day 8 of the month, I'm under a cent per 1,000 views.
Okay.
And so it's not even worth the suppression of views and stuff. So I just turn it off.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Do you find that TikTok is kind of a jumping off point? Do people transfer platforms to follow you on Facebook or YouTube?
I would say YouTube, yes. Like I think it's hard to tell. I would say that is where like I'll post a preview and people go watch it on YouTube. But I think there's very different people between Instagram and Facebook specifically. And then I noticed when I started posting on Instagram a lot more lately, people are like, oh my gosh, I missed it because I stopped watching on TikTok. And so Instagram are very much Instagram people. I'm like, well, I post the same stuff on Facebook, but they didn't even know that. So I think there is a little bit of crossover, but not as much as you'd think. I would think a lot of people, in my experience, are more so on Facebook than on Instagram from TikTok.
I'm so fascinated from platform to platform how familiar you are with your audience breakdown, like gender and age. Is that something that you're interested in, that you look in, or anybody on your team is looking at?
We definitely know it because when we talk to brands and stuff, we have to tell them. So I know on most of my platforms, it's all women. It's like 80-something% women.
Look how that is flipped for you.
Right.
You're enjoying it more.
I love it.
And you get
so
to share more of yourself and all of that.
I love it so much more. The day I got engaged, I lost 12,000 followers.
You're like, yeah.
Oh my God. I know. I was not sad about it. And then the day I got married was like another 10 or 20,000.
See ya, jabronis.
So I did not care one bit.
Okay, what about your age breakdown?
I would say it's mostly, even on Facebook, even on pretty much every platform, it's that like 24 to 38 or something like
That's
that.
great.
Like, it's very much in that my age.
In your age group. I love that.
Yeah. Now I would say on Facebook there's a larger group of older women than on any other platform, but it is still very much that median age that is like around, me.
That's very cool. Is most of it US based? Is it a pretty high percentage? Okay.
Very high Australian, very
cool.
high Canadian. So yes, it's mostly US, but there is some other countries in there.
I read on your website that YouTube, you have male followers. It's more skewed. Is that correct? And is that because
I haven't looked at it lately, but I wouldn't be surprised because that is where I post a lot more of like the actual hunting videos.
Yeah, that's what my question.
So that's where I think those would probably come in. I don't know.
I wanted to ask you because I see your friends like Becca and Elena, and you're always supporting other people like in their content creation journey in your sphere of influence. And can you talk to us a little bit why that's so important to you and why you are always like lifting other people up on your platforms?
I think I said it earlier. I just don't see a point on being on top by yourself. I just don't see a point. I don't see a point in loving somebody and not wanting to bring them up with you.
Yeah. And
so I found a way through sharing animals, like with Elena. She did take a goat this week. She took a goat from me. But before that, it was just that she was so kind enough to allow me to use one of her jacks for a little bit. And so I was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. And so we sat at dinner one night and I made her Facebook for her and made her TikTok for her. And then I was like, okay, well, everyone loves Hank now that he's been here for a long time. Follow him back home, and that was just like an easy way for me to kind of steer people in that direction. And that has been like a really, really big blessing for her. She did get monetized. So she is now able to like not work in her office quite as much. And she went down to 2 days a week and is able to put more money into her business at home. And so that's been a really big blessing for her. And we've made a good friendship as well. And then with my best friend and like people that purchase horses from me, it's a very, I don't know, I see it as a really cool way to, help them pay for their horse showing, help them pay for their training. Or in my best friend's case, she's like, I really just want to send my kids to private school and I'd, would really like to do what you do. And we've been talking about it for years before she ever even asked me, or I mean, she didn't even ask me. I offered. I was like, I would love to help you do this. And then like, I think you'd be so good at it. She is such a good person.
Good at it because now her stuff comes up in my feed and I love watching.
And if y'all ever need to do case studies on your like target audience,
she is
so funny with Meggie
because she doesn't think she's good at it, but she is.
She really
is. She's just starting.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you have to share that with her.
She is so good, and it is so fun to also when you guys are together. Her commentary.
We're so mean.
Yes, it's so funny.
We're so mean to each other. We've been best friends since I was 5.
Oh my gosh!
So it's not just like I met her in college kind of deal. Like it's like
it's like a sister.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that's so beautiful.
Like her kids are. I mean, I love her kids just like they would be mine. I mean, and so that was a really cool thing. And people are always like, oh, she probably is just using you or whatever because they've told her that. And I'm like, absolutely not. I'm the selfish one here. I want her to be able to just hang out with me all the time. So that's why it's like we're doing this. But a lot of the time, I kind of helped her start, but she's been building on it herself. She has been putting the work in on creating content like every day. And so I don't want to take any of that away from her because she has been like killing it.
That's so cool.
But yeah.
Well, okay, so let's talk about one thing people always want to peep behind the scenes at is like how you've been able to diversify and monetize your business. Like we talked about brand deals, but I know that you also do merch. And that has to be a significant income stream for you. So are those your 3? Would you say those are your 3, like just the platform?
I would say the stallion is a big one too.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we haven't even talked about that.
Yeah, the stallion's an income stream. That one gets hot topic because people are like, she'll never pay him off. But he is an income stream, and then the merch. monetizing just videos, so like on Facebook and whatnot, and then brand deals. Those are the big four.
Yeah.
And then we sell babies, and we there's other little things. We sell cows, and
that's like, do you keep that like as a separate business?
I'm an S corp, and I'm my own business, and so everything that I own and sell is like within that business, so it's all on the same one.
Yeah, we had Shay on, who does equestrian lessons, and she has a YouTube channel, and she opened up like her own boutique with not only horse items to sell, but she does lipstick and blushes now. And when we talked to her, she has 3 separate LLCs for like each thing.
So you can have a bunch of separate LLCs underneath an S corp.
Okay.
And so right now we just have everything as one.
Okay.
But it probably wouldn't be terrible to have like VS Code Red be his own one. And
I assume you have an accountant, because it sounds like a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's very complicated. Yes. Especially with how many different things are going on. And then my husband has his own business, so his own business is now underneath the S corp, because that just made it better, like easier.
Yeah. And so, and I want to ask you about payroll, if you don't mind talking about that, because I know I've never had anybody like as an employee. I've only done contract work, because just for the amount of time that people have worked for me and just like the scope of work. But it sounds like you have like some pretty full-time people. So do you have employees on payroll?
Yes.
Besides
you? we have, so like Abigail's on payroll.
Okay.
So like there's a couple people that are contractors. Because like they have their own business, and I'm just hiring them through their business.
Yes.
But then, we have the people that work in the barn. We have I have a customer service girl, my manager, and we have a couple people that, no, I just said that. Yeah. We have multiple barn employees, or just farm employees.
Okay.
And then the people that help me. So
when you transitioned into that, did you have like a manager giving you advice on that, or
no?
Did your
I did
accountant?
a lot of things wrong.
Okay.
And now
so then you figured out how to do them. See, that's encouraging for people to hear, because I think so many people just don't ever hire an employee because it just seems too daunting and overwhelming.
I did things so wrong. I would say, like, I just didn't even realize the severity of how to do things and how to organize it. So if you're gonna get an employee, I would go talk to an accountant first.
Okay.
And like figure out
what
scale you're gonna be
for
doing
what
it on.
You have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
perfect.
I wish.
Yeah, but look at you now. You're a
We're still in the middle
example.
of like figuring stuff out, honestly.
I'm sure.
Like I feel like I've gotten to where I have to have weekly meetings with like I have like a bookkeeping company that I work with, because if you follow me, I purchase an animal quite often,
which is an investment. It's not like you're just like going by in a pack.
We're also constantly, we're trying to revamp the farm and the barn, and we're doing remodels, and we're doing constant like new equipment, or whatever, and we're allowing social media to help us build like that part of our business. And so I constantly am texting my girl being like, I did this is coming out of this account, so that she knows what it is. Because there was like a time of when I hadn't done that, and they had to go through all my transactions and everything from like a long time and categorize it. And they're like, what is this? And I was like, oh, that was a goat back in, and I had to be like, all the goats were paid through this. And like, and so it was.
So now as you're purchasing things, like this has to be marked right away. We're not going to remember. There's too much going in and going out. That's
Well, I wanted to ask you too. You mentioned your husband, and I know your parents. I've seen them in your content too. How are they as support for you? And like, what does your husband think of this job as a content creator?
He likes it. He is such a huge piece of everything. And he still has his own business. So he still has Brothers Outdoor Services. For the first, up until last year, he was on a job every single day, working his guts out, building patios, retaining walls, doing excavation work, very like manual labor. And so we did have a big talk of like, hey, your body is not going to last doing this. So you either need to hire more people to do those kinds of jobs, or do we sink more time and energy into the farm? And so he still does do jobs, but he is a really big role at the farm and the mini farm, and even just helping me with my own projects and whatnot. And so we still have his employees as well. And so a lot of the times they do stuff for me or the farm, but then they also do jobs for him. And so he is, I mean, like the biggest yes man, the biggest like support guy ever. I mean, like he does, he probably should tell me no more often, honestly. And then my parents, even though I said they were very judgy at first, they were very like, why are you taking pictures of yourself? Like, that's embarrassing. Don't do that. They quickly found out what it could bring and the benefits of it, and saw the passion that I had for it. And as it evolved, now like my mom even runs the Running Springs account and has fun with it, and she'll post pictures and talk to people in the comments, and she has fun with it now. So they are all very supportive, very much could not do anything without them. So very grateful for that.
Well, and how do they feel about, I know that you've addressed this several times on your own channels, the negativity that can come alongside sometimes. I know you've talked about people even like pulling up to your property, and I know I just see a lot. I feel like when you're working with animals, there are so many armchair quarterbacks and people criticizing how you do things, and just a lot of meanness. So how do you and your family handle all of that?
I'm not going to lie. Like there's probably a couple months or a couple of days a month, if not more, that I'm like in stitches in my stomach. And I don't usually retaliate, and I don't usually get on there and write nasty comments back or anything. But even if someone's saying something that's completely false, like they don't know the whole story, it's still like will eat you up that someone thinks that about you. And so I do have help reading my comments now, because I can't read all of them. And so I have help kind of going in and cleaning it up and blocking people. And even if they're not being mean to me, but being mean to others in my comments, we try to clean that up and keep it a really safe space. And unfortunately, it's not been that way for the last few months. I wish people would understand, like, I'm not the one telling these people to be mean. Like, that comes back on me. People are making complete videos or like Reddit pages about how I need to get my followers under control. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I have no control over these people that are choosing to say these words. I've always, like, the only thing I always say is just like, be nice. I've never once made it seem like that's something that I would want for them to do. And so that is difficult. I would say you get a thicker skin the longer you do it. It is difficult, especially, like, I started pretty young. I was 20. I can still consider myself young at 28.
You are very young.
You are.
Let me assure you, you are very young.
And it's difficult that I'm learning and evolving on social media, because then it's like people make mistakes throughout their career, but it's not broadcasted to 8 million people.
Right.
And so then my mistakes are then broadcasted and made videos about. And even if it's something that happened a year ago or 2 years ago and I learned from it and changed it, if it becomes a topic, then it's like I'm under fire. And so that's difficult. And I would say, like, you just have to, like, sometimes I don't vocalize it to my husband enough, and then I realize, like, I'm bottling it and that I just need to talk about it. Because you do get affected, no matter how much you think you don't. And so I do have a thicker skin than I used to. I used to cry a lot more than I do now. I don't cry usually now. But you just have to realize that, like, I know my own heart and I know what's going on behind the scenes. No one else does that's watching. And I think also just telling yourself that the mean ones are so much louder, but they are nowhere near the amount of positivity, right? And so it's a balance. Like, me and Abigail were joking on the way here because we were reading questions, and we were like, bottle it all up and then have a breakdown once a month. Like, we were kind of joking about it. We were like, no, like I do talk about it, and I think having safe people to talk about it with is super important. I wish that wasn't something that we had to deal with, but it's unfortunate. But it kind of comes with the territory.
Yeah, it comes with the territory, and the fact that people think that you have the time or you could even hire enough people to deal with millions.
I'm having
of people.
I already hired someone to go through and block people and be like that. You didn't hire someone. I'm like, I did. It's just that I post 8 videos a day. All 8 get thousands of comments, and that's every day. So I mean, per week. How do we stay on top of that? And then they're like, well, they're on this person's page. And if I know about it, we'll go over there and like look through the comments. But how am I supposed to keep track of mine plus other people's? I wish I could. I really do, but I can't. And it's really frustrating that and I think it's a lot of young people that are like this, that are very armchair, like, not vigilantes. What would you call them? They're keyboard warriors, but they are.
It's like Taylor Swift's fans who go after, like they feel like it's loyalty to someone.
If anybody says anything bad about her, they have to cancel that person
on their behalf.
But I'll get comments in mine being like bombarding all at once of like, are you going to talk about this? Are you going to? And it's like,
no, I don't talk about what I want to.
I'm like, my page forever will be a place of positivity and a place of education and of, spreading awareness of, if someone wants to get into like the farming lifestyle or owning animals, or like, I don't want to gatekeep owning animals and being on a farm. And I feel like that's such a hard thing to get into if you weren't raised in it. And so that's like, I'm always going to keep it positive. I'm going to be real. Like, we had a calf die the other day. I'm going to tell you about it, but I'm going to keep it as an educational piece. I'm not going to like get on and make videos about other creators or about people being, every now and then I have to get on there and be like, let's be nice, but I just hope people see that I've never once gotten on social media and put down somebody else. And I'm going to always stick to that, and I feel like people just kind of, it's like mob mentality, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, we have talked a lot too on this channel about creating content like out of your mission and values. And it sounds like you've mentioned a few things, but can you kind of tell us when you're filming the stuff that you put out, like what is the value in your personal like mission behind it? Like, what do you want the viewer to walk away with?
So, I wouldn't say I make ministry like a huge part of my everyday content, but if I can mention, my faith or anything like that, I do try to put it in there so that, like, I hope that people would see Christianity in a good light from my page, of how you treat others and how you treat the things that you are responsible for and things like that. And so while it's not necessarily like a Christianity page, I do hope that shines through. And then I have a lot of people that have, and this is one of the things that helps keep going, is that I have so many people reach out that they're going through a really hard time, and my page can be an escape. It can be a source of joy. And so if I can combine, being a shining light with sharing joyful experiences, with also sharing education, I mean, that's kind of the point, right? Is that I don't really want it to be one thing, but being honest, being a good example. And while sometimes my good example, like I said, I'm still learning, it might not always be the exact right thing in that moment, but I'm hoping that people could see that I learned from that, and then I still share that I learned from that, so I don't know that there's like an exact mission statement with it, but I mean,
but it sounds like too that naturally, whether someone has said this to you or not, or that you recognize that humility and grace sounds like a huge part of what you just said, which is like exactly, I think, what your faith is rooted in, so those things are just naturally coming out of you. And what I said to Meggie before you came over here is like, Katie is just someone who has just figured it out. She has figured out to do what brings her joy and what she loves and bring us into it. And she's figured out how to create this content juggernaut on something that she truly does love. Because I think there's a lot of us that have gotten it twisted, and we're so focused on the content that we've lost the why, especially when you're doing it for such a long time. And so the fact that you've been doing it for 7 years, seeing where you started, and I feel like you're coming into, the more you make content, the more you're actually coming into your own and your actual purpose. Mm-hmm. And I think it is like a blueprint for the future for creators that want to have longevity and want to have that success. Like, you are a person who is not so focused on the content. You're focused on, what am I stewarding and what's inside me that I want people to know, and I'm going to create content around that. It's encouraging to me, because I'm the type of person that's like, okay, I think I'm done. I think I'm going to retire. And I'm like, because the content has become such a focus that I've lost that why that's inside. So you're definitely encouraging me today. And I know it's,
I don't feel like I have it all figured out.
Well, you don't have it all figured out, but like I said, humility is huge, I think, in content creation, and being like, hey, I messed up and now I'm going to go this way. And the authenticity of being like, you're never going to be okay with negative comments. If negative comments don't bother you, you should probably check to make sure that you're doing okay, because you're probably suppressing or disassociating.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. So I just think, and just with your young age, I mean, it's just beautiful. It's so beautiful to see. Yes.
I feel so old. So young.
It's like so beautiful to see how you are stewarding like this gift that God has given you, and you are never going to know like the effects and the ripples that have happened. And I'm just so encouraged for people to be hearing this interview, because I just think there's so much gold in it. Okay, we're taking a quick break to talk about our favorite things. You guys know that we love to share things that we're loving, and, you know, we're going to let our guests go first. Okay, what are you loving right now?
I feel conceited saying this because it's from my own merch, but we just came out with Halloween socks. I'm a big sock lover.
Okay.
And they have my miniature horse as a cartoon in a witch's hat.
Oh my gosh.
Cute. And they're amazing.
See, we need that. I see why you're sharing.
They're amazing.
I see why you're sharing that.
You have so much cute merch.
Thank you.
I mean, I was just admiring the sticker on the back of your phone of little babies.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
Okay. Do you have any of her merch yet? You're going to have to get on there and get some. We're going to have to get you some Halloween socks.
I know.
Okay, my favorite thing, I got new shoes, which, Meggie, you know it's a big deal when I get new shoes, because I only buy new shoes maybe once every 2 to 3 years. And my workout shoes were kind of in the dumper. I was like, these look dumpy. How long has it been? 2 years since I bought new workout shoes.
Yikes.
So I got the exact same pair, but I got a new color. So these are the Nike Metcons, and they have a really sturdy heel. So they're really great for squats for the F45 workout that we do, but it has enough cushion that it's a good training shoe too. And this is like a off-white color. My last color I had was khaki, and these are like off-white. They're like a creamy, and then they have like some blush accents on them. So I love them. And the Nike, there's only a tiny Nike here and a tiny Nike here, which I kind of like, that it's not like in your face.
I like that you're showcasing your flexibility.
I know. I'm not flexible at all. But here's my shoe, guys. And they look really nice and clean right now. I don't know how long they're going to stay clean, but I love them. It's my third pair of Metcons. I love them.
Yeah, I wear them to work out in too. My favorite thing is my Target denim jacket that I saw on TikTok, and I stalked the website till it came back in stock, and I finally found one.
Did you go in store to try to find it too?
Yes.
Yes, and you could not. It is sold out.
It was sold out everywhere.
It's
viral. Was my lucky day.
Okay.
It was viral.
Well, I hope it's still available. We'll link all that stuff.
I'll link it
down
you
in the
can stalk the
description box
website as well.
Okay, now let's hop back into the interview.
Well, this has been so fun.
Thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
I know.
We're just always in awe when these like amazing creators that have such success want to come sit down in our little baby podcast. And it was so fun having you in person. There's nothing like doing an in-person interview. So thank you for saying yes and taking the time.
Well, it's 25 minutes away. How could I not say yes?
I know. When I figured out you were like right down the road, I was like, oh my gosh, we're neighbors.
Well, we promise we will not pull up to your house and try to take pictures with your animals. We will respect your privacy.
That is so crazy. I guess in closing, do you have any advice for people out there who are getting started in their content creation journey, or even starting a small business? Like, what advice would you give to them before we wrap it up?
Oh, Lord, that's like a big one. I would say, like, not getting too big for your britches and just kind of staying true to yourself. And that sounds so cliche, but it's so true, of not not getting outside of like your realistic realm of like what you want out of life, and not letting the wrong things become your number one, and keeping your priorities straight, and keeping your family and your friends as a really big piece of your life, and not trying to do everything by yourself. Help is okay, and help is the best, and you cannot be successful or as successful as you would like to be by yourself. So, keeping your circle big, and with people that you trust. And yeah, I don't really know what else other than just, like, it sounds so cliche, but like, just be true to like your mission and yourself and your heart. But
no, I think that's so good. And thank you again for taking the time to sit here with us. And we will put all of the places you can find Katie in the description box below. So if you don't already follow her, head on over to one of her channels and go enjoy some of her animal content. My personal favorite is the mini farm. So you guys are going to love it too, I bet. She has lots of babies.
I know.
Lots of babies.
Oh my gosh, the little baby donkeys with the zoomies is the cutest. So y'all just go watch.
Yes. And thanks for sitting here with us in the Cypress Room. We'll be back with another podcast soon. So we'll see you next time.